Hey y'all, it's me Tiffany and welcome back to my channel. This is the first time you're here. I mostly do novels, graphic novels, mangas, occasionally a movie or television show. So let's jump into it. I've only done one monthly wrap up in my life and it was for January of last year. And this one's January, so we'll see how this goes. I'm not going to hold up the books because most of them are library and I just don't feel like it. I have like the little Clockwork Reader's journal here. I might be referencing this just to know what I read because I don't have a list in front of me. I want to keep this very brief because like I know the last one I did, or when I do too many of these at once, I just feel overwhelmed, and I'm just being honest. But I do want to talk about the books I read, and I think monthly wrap-ups are nice. So I'm just going to try to keep these brief as possible. And I'm going to do my best to do this spoiler-free, and if I have any videos relevant, I'll have them down below. So let's jump into it. Oh, before I start, one more thing. I read individual issues of Nubia, Swamp Thing, Green Hell, and Joe Rain's #1. I've only read one of each of these. I am not going to include them in this because all of them are actually going to be videos that I talk more in depth. But yeah, I did read those, and you know, I want to throw that in there even though those aren't exactly books. You know, if you've been on my channel, I like comics. Those are the individual issues I have read. So these aren't going to be in perfect order because there's some stuff I've read in series, and I'm just going to group them together instead of being like, #1 of this, another book, #2 of this, you know, make things easy. So Something is Killing the Children, volumes 1 through 4. 1 through 3 is the Archer Peaks storyline, and it's one cohesive story. And it's basically about like, you know, this world has monsters that only children can really see. So for this organization that exists that can kill the monsters. And these monsters can't be seen by most people. And our character lost a friend. And, you know, a lot of people are like, why didn't you save him? And they don't really understand what's going on. Then Erica Slaughter comes in, saves the day. And then volume 4 is the backstory of Erica Slaughter. I don't think you have to read volume 4, but it is an absolute treat. I think you should read it, but I don't think you have to. I have not read House of the Slaughter yet, which is the spin-off series. I think 3 or 4 issues are out, and I thought about reading them. I just haven't gotten to it yet, but I definitely plan on doing that relatively soon. The next 2 things, which the video I know for a fact has came out by the time that this was published, is Kelsey Ballerini's Feel Your Way Through and Misha Collins' Some Things I Cannot Tell About You. Kind of combining these together because they're both poetry collections. I really enjoyed both of them. I think Kelsey's Ballerini's is the best for like, I feel like it hits tougher issues in Kelsey Ballerini's, and it has they both have super easy entry points when it comes to poetry, in my opinion. Like, yeah, there's more like, you know, a simile and all this stuff, but I feel like it's beginner friendly. But I think Kelsey Ballerini's hits a little tougher issues if you have like an ED or school boop boop, or like body issues in general. Social media pressures. I think if you're into that, or if those are a trigger, take that advice as you will. Misha Collins is more about observing daily life and talking about his life and in a small span of time. And you definitely can tell he wrote this during the pandemic, and I'm guessing he had issues with his wife. Kelsey Ballerini's is more about like a chronicling of like most of her life, just in little bits. I think they're both great. I don't really like to rank poetry 1 through 5 because they're usually such personal experiences, but I think I got more out of Kelsey Ballerini's, but I think Misha Collins is like a fresh taste on poetry because a lot of poetry that I've read hits such dark topics. And while there is a little bit of sadness in his, it's not the same as some of the stuff I've been reading. So the next one I want to talk about is For the Kid I Saw in My Dreams, 5 and 6. I have actually recorded the video at this point of reading 1 through 6. 7 has not been issued out. in English yet. I'm sure it will eventually. Basically, it's about these twins, and they have a home invader that kills their parents, and one twin believes that the other twin died. They get separated. It talks a lot about like the twin connection that's always in media and stuff like that. And there's a guy called the Fireman, and there's a lot of mystery to it. He's the same guy who wrote Erase. I have not read Erase, but I know that series very well beloved. I've seen in some of the comment sections after I add them to Goodreads that there's a lot of elements in both. I don't know, I cannot tell you, but I'm enjoying that manga so far, and I need 7 to come out in English, please. Like, come on. Okay, so the next time we'll talk about are the 2 Shakespeare plays that I read. I did not actually read these like back to back, but I feel like I should put them together. So one was a reread, one wasn't. The one that wasn't a reread is King Lear, and this is basically about this ruler going mad, and he has 3 daughters, and it basically starts off with like the daughters have to tell him how much he loves them, and basically he gets land based off that. One daughter was just like, I love you as much as I should love you, but you know, you're not the center of my world. He gets upset. There's a lot of violence. It's a tragedy, so of course naturally everybody dies. I feel like that's not a spoiler, because if you know anything about Shakespeare, every tragedy basically everybody dies. And I thought this was a lot of fun. After I got done reading this, I decided to watch an adaptation, and I watched the one that was on Amazon, and I didn't like it. I did not like it. But it wasn't the actor's fault. It was just, I don't like these Shakespeare adaptations where they are speaking Shakespearean, but everything else is modern. And I guess that's just a personal taste, but I like Shakespeare adaptations that are set back in the olden days just more. I guess it's just my preference, you know. But I did enjoy the story a lot. And yeah, basically, you know, I know this play is very well beloved, and I definitely see why. I like seeing how mad our king got, and just like the descent into madness the older he gets, and the way the daughters do things. I thought it was rather interesting. The next Shakespeare that I read was Titus Andromachus. This was a reread. If you don't know much about Shakespeare, this is the goriest one. I've seen some people say that they believe this was the first one written. I don't actually know the exact history of Titus Andromachus. Maybe I should, because I had to write a paper on it in school, but that was not part of the paper that I had to write. And also this was in like 9th grade, so I was 14, and 14, 15, so it's been over 10 years. But it is the goriest play by far. There is SA in it. A lot of, you know, this is written in the 1500s, so there's a lot of sexism, to just be honest. And yeah, there's a lot in this play, and a lot of people consider this the worst play because it's just grotesque to be grotesque, and it doesn't fit in like with the rest of Shakespeare plays. And I've seen a lot of people even question if Shakespeare wrote this, but nonetheless, I actually enjoyed it. I think it's just because it's just so out there, you know. And don't eat meat pies if you've made somebody mad. That is all I got to say. And appreciate your hands. If there is a 90s version of this play that's a movie. It's kind of weird, but I like it. You know, the beginning's kind of odd because it's a little bit more modern day than it goes into the play, and that little boy's just around. But you know, it might be kind of odd if you haven't read the play and you don't understand what's going on, but I think it's good. Like, I like that adaptation a little bit. Titus Andromachus, like, I can't believe I got to read that in like when I was 14 or 15 just because of how crazy it was. And I was a little bit newer to Shakespeare, so I don't think I picked up on all of it. I just knew it was gruesome. But rereading it as an adult and being more familiar with Shakespeare, I'm just like, why was this on the list for me to read? Why? It is so gruesome. But yeah, if you want to read something, or if you like Sweeney Todd or Hannibal Lecter, I guess, go this route. So the next two I'm going to talk about are also rereads. Alabama Moon. So this is basically about a little boy who grows up with his pap, or his dad. He calls him Pap in the story. And this is a rather short book, and he doesn't go to school. He lives out in the wilderness. This is more of like, I guess more like a militia thing than living off the grid. And he was a veteran, and he just doesn't trust the government. And I'm assuming it's the Vietnam War. It had a lot of real city names that are in Alabama. I actually had to read this my 10th grade year. Same with the same other book. I'm actually going through a thing where I'm trying to reread all of my high school required readings that are novels and plays, not those Norton anthology and all that stuff. And this is one of them. I still think this one holds up pretty well. It's very simply written, and you get to see this boy grow and learn, like, maybe he does need to trust people. Maybe he doesn't have to only rely on himself. Maybe he can form friendships. And he's rough and he's ready to fight everything because that's all he was ever taught, and he can survive on his own. And there's just so much heart, so much character, so much grief, and so much love that is in this book that I can definitely see why my teacher required me to read it. The next one, not so much. So, Big Fish. Okay, so Big Fish is also set in Alabama, but this one's more surrealistic, like a father's dying. And this goes through different accounts of the stories of his father's death. And it's kind of assumed that he's just a liar and just making up big stories for his kid. But, you know, there might be some truth to it. Like he tries to own a town, or he gets married to somebody else, or, you know, the Big Fish. You know, and it's just like a bunch of crazy stories that this guy, and he's like, why don't you tell me the truth, Dad? Why don't you tell me the truth that you're dying? And his dad is like never home. His dad's honestly a piece of crap. I do not like his father. I didn't really like the story when I read it originally, but I didn't get it. But now that I took the time and I watched some videos, because I still kind of didn't get it the second time, I just don't care for it. I know why I was required to read this, because it has Alabama in it, and like it mentions like Tuscaloosa and stuff like that, which are real cities. And a lot of parts in the state were used to film this movie, including like a small section from my hometown. So I get like why, you know, like my hometown's like kind of referenced and stuff like that. So I get why we had to read it. And I guess I could see why some people would like it, but honestly, no. I finally read Mark of Athena, which is like the Heroes of Olympus number 3. I read Percy Jackson as an adult, not as a kid. I read Harry Potter a million times, but I did not read Percy Jackson. And I read it the first time, I think, when I was about 21. And then I read it the second time over last year. And I really enjoyed it. Like, you know, sometimes you grow out of certain things. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes things just go with you. And Percy Jackson still held up really well. I've been going very slowly through the Heroes of Olympus just because I kind of don't care as much. Some reason about these Roman gods and these extra characters, which I still love, like, you know, Percy and Annabeth and stuff, but I'm just not caring for these stories as much as I did Percy, and I don't think that's a very controversial take, but it's my honest take. But one thing I did like about Mark of Athena, we got to see so much through Annabeth's point of view, and this book is more centered on her, and, you know, there's a lot of point of views and stuff, and I don't know if the Roman and the Greek things just feel like it's doing too much, but I did like seeing her, and I like seeing her being calculated. And a lot about her, I think she's honestly the one I care most about out of the original trio, which I don't think that's a controversial opinion either. But, you know, she's just so smart and stuff, and it was nice to see things through her view. I do plan on finishing the series. Like, I'm enjoying this. Don't get me wrong. When I say I just don't care as much, I still enjoy this series. It's just, I guess, coming off the hype train from Percy Jackson, and the whole internet's kind of hyped to this book series. I'm just not at that level. Or maybe I'm just not in the mood. I'm not sure. But either way, that is how I feel. Okay, so the next one I'm going to talk about is Street Love. This is a Romeo and Juliet retelling. This is done in verse, and this is based in Harlem. One kid has a better off family, 2-parent household. The other one, her mom is a felon, and then she has to be raised by her grandmother, who is also a felon, but this one's not in jail. And they come from 2 different families, and there's conflict of like, why would you get with somebody like that? And it's star-crossed lovers. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's worth the read. And it's super, super short. Like, it's barely 100 pages, and then it's in verse. And yeah, I think it's worth reading, especially since, you know, Romeo and Juliet retellings are usually better than Romeo and Juliet. So the last one I want to talk about, my boy. I Am a Hero, Volume 1 of the Omnibus. I did not finish the Omnibus. I read the first full volume though, and I had enough. It is super sexist. It's very incel. It's like an incel fantasy, and I just absolutely hate it. I don't get why this has so much hype. Granted, I've only read one volume, but I did a lot of research, and it looks like it doesn't really get that better. And I don't mind characters that you're not supposed to like, but it seems like other people on Reddit and the internet agree that it's glorifying him. It's not like he turns into a piece of crap, and he's just like a piece of crap through it, or a piece of crap that turns into like less crap or turns into a good person or anything like that. It's just a lot of people on the internet, well, not a lot of people, most people enjoy this, but there was a group of people that were just like, this is an incel fantasy. And I could definitely agree from the stuff I read and what happens to our main hero's girlfriend and the other females and other things that I got kind of spoilers for, because I was like, does this get better? Does he have growth? Or does he just stay a piece of crap the whole time? Because sometimes I don't mind reading about a piece of crap person if they say a piece of crap, but I don't want it glorified, you know? I don't want it glorified. Like Yagami is a very bad person. I don't care if you think Kira did the right thing. And, you know, he glorifies it to himself, but the story itself doesn't glorify it, you know? And it's just like, different things like that, like, or, you know, like Walter White gets worse, you know, but this was just like, I felt like I was reading an incel fantasy. I don't care. This was trash. I did not like the fact that how the girlfriend was treated, or the fact that she was like, no, I don't really want sex, and he was like, but I want it, so just kind of do it. Or like, women shouldn't be there was a whole monologue about why women shouldn't have certain jobs because they just look too pretty, but he wouldn't give them the time of day because they're not worth listening to because their looks are too much. But he would satisfy them in bed, and that's what he would do for them, because that would be a treasure. That would be a good thing. Like, it literally says, like, yeah, they're not worth doing their job, and they shouldn't be doing their job because they're too pretty. But if they wanted me to sleep with them, I will grant them that because I am the prize. And I'm just like, dude, why are you so awful? And then it's just, there's just so much, and I don't care about the reading more. And I read that it says about progressive in some areas get worse, and I just have no interest. Maybe at some point it gets better. I don't know. I don't care. It feels kind of like there's just a criminal and a bad person, but it's just, you know, there's different kinds of bad people, and I just have no interest, and the artwork is horrendous. So, I think on Goodreads I marked the Omnibus instead of the volume 1, but I don't care. I read the first volume, so I guess it's not a DNF. But guys, have you read any of these? Let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you later. Bye.